On the night of the blood moon, my alpha betrayed me. Korath, hungry for power, sold me to the Circle of Five, an offering to secure his throne. Their eyes burned with cruelty, their jeers tore at my pride, but it was his silence that cut deepest. I was no wolf to him, no mate, no equal. I was currency. But wolves who are cast aside learn to hunt alone. I escaped into the forbidden wilds, where the earth whispers of a terror older than kings. Corvane, the lone alpha. He should have ended me. Instead, he gave me reason to live. That night, I swore. The Alpha King who sold me would crawl back in chains of his own making, begging for the mercy I'd never owe him. The blood moon rises swollen and crimson, painting the clearing in a light that feels more like blood than fire. Tonight should have been a night of unity, of wolves honoring the moon's gift. Instead, it is the night I am sold. I stand, chained at the edge of the circle's gathering, iron biting into my wrists, the metallic tang of blood sharp on my tongue. The firelight throws my shadow long, stretching me thin and fragile across the dirt. Korath, my alpha, my supposed mate, steps forward. His posture is proud, regal even, as if the weight of betrayal sits easily on his shoulders. He doesn't stumble, he doesn't flinch. His words come smooth, rehearsed, like he's been waiting for this moment. A gift, he says, his voice carrying through the night, a pledge of loyalty to the circle, proof that I will bleed for our alliance. He gestures to me, and though every muscle in my body screams, I stand tall. Laughter erupts from the gathered alphas, cruel and coarse. It cuts sharper than claws. To them, I am nothing more than a prize. My presence proves Korath's ambition, his willingness to pay whatever price is demanded. But it's his silence that cleaves me open. Not once does he look at me. Not when the jeers fly, not when one of the alphas drags me forward like a carcass to be weighed, not when my knees strike the earth. His gaze fixes only on the power being promised him. The bond between us, thin, frail, already tattered, shreds completely in that silence. I am no wolf, no mate, no equal. I am currency. The circle debates my worth like merchants haggling over spoiled goods. Some sneer, others smirk. And Korath, proud and still as stone, lets them. The fire pops, sending sparks into the night sky, and for the first time I understand a truth so sharp it hurts to breathe. I was never his choice. I was always his price. And tonight, under the blood moon, I am sold. The circle of five closes in around me, their shadows long and jagged in the firelight. Each alpha is a predator in their own right, but together they look like carrion birds circling prey already half dead. One steps forward, a brute with a chest like a wall and fangs yellowed by blood wine. He grabs my chin, turning my face side to side as though inspecting a horse at market. "Too thin," he sneers, "but young enough. She might still bear strong pups if she survives." The others laugh, a chorus of cruelty that prickles my skin. Another alpha, tall and sharp-eyed, runs a claw down my arm until it draws a thin line of blood. He licks the crimson from his fingertip, smirking. "At least she bleeds well." I bite back a flinch, refusing to give them satisfaction. But inside, my fury coils tighter with every word. "Not worth much," the first alpha says, turning to Korath. "You offer scraps and call it tribute." The circle erupts in jeers. Their laughter echoes off the stone walls of the clearing, a sound that makes my ears ring. They mock not just me, but him, for selling me so cheaply. But Korath doesn't move, doesn't speak, doesn't even blink. His silence is worse than their taunts. Perhaps he was desperate, another suggests, eyes glinting with amusement. Only a man without loyalty would trade away his mate. That word, mate, hangs in the air like a cruel joke. They savor it, each repetition driving the knife deeper. My stomach twists, but I keep my chin high. I will not let them see me break. The brute alpha shoves me to my knees. I say we keep her, break her in. If she survives, maybe she's worth something. The fire roars higher, and their laughter blends into the crackle of flames. My cheeks burn, not from shame, but from the rage clawing inside me. Korath's ambition shines brighter than any bond we ever shared. To him, I am not Eryndra, not wolf, not woman. Only proof of his loyalty, stripped bare before jackals who would devour me whole. In this market of wolves, I am not sold as a prize. I am offered as prey. The 3 nights that followed were a crucible. Alicia Duskbane scoured the borderlands with Adrian Rowan at her side, her hollow soul straining with every step. The rogues trailed in silence, their lives balanced on the edge of her success. The Order shadowed them too, hunters in black steel watching with eyes sharp as blades, waiting for her to fail. On the second night, the trail appeared. Ash clung to the trees like soot after fire, though no flame had touched them. The ground bore strange marks, not paw prints, not human, but twisted impressions as if the earth recoiled from what walked upon it. The air itself reeked of something sharp and cold, a wrongness that prickled against her hollow soul. Alicia knelt, pressing her palm to the blackened soil. Her void stirred, drinking in the residue, unrattling its signature. A shiver tore through her as visions flickered across her mind. Jaws too wide, skin stretched too thin, eyes hollow as caverns. The hollow-born. Her voice trembled as she spoke. Here, this is their work. Mara Ironveil dismounted with a scowl, crouching beside her. Prove it. Alicia pressed her palm deeper into the earth, letting her hollow soul drink until her veins burned. The residue unraveled, spilling its truth. She gasped, eyes widening as she pulled fragments of memory from the stain. Screams, shadows, blood, and then, clear as moonlight, the hollow-born's distorted cry. She staggered back, pointing toward the cliffs. They came from there. Not rogues, hollow-born. As if summoned, the shadows shifted. A hollow-born lurched from the rocks, its skin gray and stretched tight over bone, its body twisted in unnatural ways. Its scream tore the night, a sound more curse than voice. The hunters froze in shock, until Alicia raised her hand, her hollow soul flaring. The creature lunged, but its magic unraveled on contact with her void, crumbling into ash that scattered on the wind. The silence that followed was absolute. Mara rose slowly, her sharp eyes fixed on Alicia. Then, with a curt nod, she turned to her hunters. The rogues are innocent. Withdraw. Relief crashed through the rogues in waves, tears mixing with growls of triumph. The pack watched in stunned silence, their fear now tempered with awe. Alicia stood trembling, her chest heaving, the void in her veins quieting. She had saved them, not with claws, not with brute force, but with the emptiness once called her curse. The circle grows drunk on their own cruelty. They feast, drink, and boast beneath the blood moon, their laughter shaking the clearing long after the jeers at my expense fade. I remain tethered to a post at the edge of the firelight, wrists aching where the iron cuts deep. They think I am broken. They think I will kneel quietly until morning. They are wrong. The alpha guarding my chain grows careless. his cup filled and emptied too many times. Each time he leans back to swig, I test the links, twisting my wrists until skin splits. Pain sharpens me, steadies me. I imagine their surprise when they wake to find me gone. I imagine Koraz's space when he realizes the pawn he discarded slipped through his grasp. At last, the cuff gives. My flesh tears as I wrench my wrist free, blood slicking my skin. The sting nearly buckles me, but I choke it down. Pain is proof I'm still alive. The guard slumps against a log, head lolling. With every beat of the drums, every cheer of their feasting, I move closer to the trees. My heartbeat drowns out everything but the pulse of freedom. Then a voice calls out, sharp, slurred with drink. I freeze, breath caught in my chest. For a heartbeat, I think I've been caught. But the alpha only shouts for more ale, and the others roar in approval. I run. Branches lash my arms, roots clutch at my ankles. But I don't stop. The forest closes around me, swallowing the firelight and laughter until only darkness remains. My lungs burn, my legs scream, but I push harder. Every step carries me further from the chains, further from him. Behind me, howls rise, sharp, furious, hungry. The circle has discovered their prey has fled. The night explodes with the sound of pursuit, paws pounding the earth like war drums. I am hunted. But even hunted prey can bite, and if the wild is where I must make my stand, then let it be where they bleed. The forest is alive with their pursuit. The howls splinter the silence, each one closer, sharper, hungrier. Branches snap, paws thunder, and the air itself trembles with the promise of blood. I run as if fire eats my heels. My body aches from chains and hunger, but adrenaline burns through me like wildfire. The moonlight spills silver across the forest floor, guiding and mocking me in equal measure. Find her. A voice bellows through the trees, low and commanding. Koraz. Even here, even now, his voice claws at me. He would rather see me torn apart than risk me falling into another's hands. I leap over a fallen log, land hard, and keep moving. My breath rips through my lungs, harsh and ragged. Every shadow looks like a wolf's flank, every gust of wind like a growl. I know I cannot outrun them forever. Wolves are hunters, and I'm just one desperate girl bleeding into the dirt. But I also know wolves tire prey before striking. They want me to stumble. They want me broken. That means I have time. Thin, fragile, but mine. I veer left, plunging into thicker woods where the trees grow close and the underbrush claws at my legs. If they want me, they'll have to tear through the thorns. The night splits with frustrated snarls as some are slowed. Still, one shadow does not falter. Heavy paws hammer closer. The stench of wet fur and blood fills my nose. My pulse crashes in my ears. He's almost on me. I grab a branch as thick as my arm and whirl just as the wolf lunges. His weight slams into me, jaws snapping from my throat. I jam the wood into his mouth, the wood splintering as his fangs shred it. His saliva burns against my torn wrists as I shove with all my strength, rolling, kicking, clawing. At last, I drive my heel into his ribs. He yelps, staggers. I don't wait. I run again, heart hammering, knowing others are closing in. The forest seems endless, the hunt unrelenting. And yet deep inside, a wild thought blooms. If I survive this night, I will never kneel again. The forest changes. The howls that hunted me falter as I cross an invisible line, their fury thinning into uneasy silence. Even the night air feels different, heavier, charged with a presence I cannot see but cannot escape. The circle wolves do not pursue me here. I hear their snarls fade, replaced by a strange, reluctant retreat. They fear what waits in these woods, which means I should fear it too. My chest heaves, every breath raw, every muscle screaming, but I keep moving. Darkness thickens beneath the canopy. The moon cannot reach me here, swallowed by branches that twist like the claws of some ancient beast. Something watches me. The hairs at the back of my neck rise. My instincts scream louder than the wolves ever did. I am not alone. I force my feet forward, clutching at the torn fabric of my dress. I tell myself I've escaped, that survival means pressing deeper. But each step feels less like escape and more like descent into a place where even the hunters refuse to tread. A low growl rolls through the silence. It is not like the others, sharper, deeper, older. It vibrates through the ground, through my bones. I freeze. From the shadows, a shape moves, enormous, scarred. A wolf unlike any I've ever seen, larger than Korath's strongest. His eyes burn with a feral intelligence, gold touched with iron, like molten ore cooled too quickly. Corvane, the lone alpha, the wolf whose name mothers whisper to frighten their pups, the monster said to dwell where no pack dares claim land. He steps into the pale shaft of moonlight, head low, hackles raised. His fangs catch the light as he snarls, a sound like the forest itself rejecting me. I should run, but there is nowhere left to run. The wolves that sold me off wouldn't follow me here, and this one, this creature, stands between me and any hope of freedom. The air holds its breath. My heart pounds, a war drum in my chest. Then Corvane's voice cuts through the night, a graveled whisper, inhuman and terrifying. Trespasser. The air in these woods feels heavier, thicker, as if it resents her very breathing. Eryndra forces her aching legs forward, each step driven only by the terror of being dragged back to the circle's claws. But the silence unnerves her more than the chase. It is not the peace of safety, it is the stillness of a predator waiting. Then she sees him. At first, only a shadow shifting between trees, massive, fluid, purposeful. Then the wolf steps into the pale beam of moonlight, and her lungs seize. He is unlike any wolf she's seen in Korath's pack, or even the circle. Larger, darker, his fur streaked with scars like a map of old wars. His eyes glow like molten coals, steady and merciless. Corvane. The name drifts through her mind unbidden. The lone alpha. The one even the circle whispers of, but never confronts. She had thought him a tale, a warning told to pups who dared wander too far. But here he stands, and the earth itself seems to recoil from him. The circle's hunters, once so relentless, now linger at the edge of the woods, whining, refusing to step inside. Eryndra risks a glance back. They fear him, fear this wolf so much they'd rather let her go than trespass. But Corvane does not look at them. His eyes pin her, sharp as fangs sinking into her throat. She feels stripped bare under that gaze, as if he sees every betrayal, every weakness, every drop of shame she carries. She should run. Every instinct screams at her to flee, but her body betrays her, rooted to the earth. When he takes a step closer, her knees tremble, not from exhaustion, but from the raw weight of his presence. His growl rumbles low, rolling through her bones. Not a warning, a claim. For the first time since her sale, Eryndra feels something worse than fear of the circle. She has stepped into the den of something far greater, and unlike Korath, unlike the Five, this alpha doesn't need chains or bargains to own her fate. Corvane tilts his massive head, studying her. Then, without warning, he shifts. Bones cracking, fur receding, and the scarred, brutal man beneath emerges. His first words are not a welcome, but a sentence. You don't belong here. Leave or die. The man before her is as terrifying as the wolf. Broad-shouldered, scar-carved from jaw to temple, his presence is sharper than any blade. The night clings to him, as though the forest itself bends to his will. He doesn't blink as he studies her, the way a predator sizes a deer before the strike. Eryndra opens her mouth, but no words come. Her throat is raw from running, her body trembling from exhaustion. Still, she forces herself to meet his eyes. To look away would be submission, and she has bowed her head too many times already. Corvane steps closer. Each stride carries the weight of inevitability. His voice is low, deep, not loud, but every syllable feels like it vibrates against her ribs. You've trespassed, he says. This ground is mine. He circles her slowly, his movements measured, deliberate. His gaze lingers on her wrists, raw from rope burns, then on the bruises painting her skin. He smells the scent of other alphas clinging to her, and something flickers in his expression, recognition or disdain. You reek of them, the circle. Eryndra swallows hard. Her mind screams to explain, to beg, but pride knots her tongue. She has begged before, Korath for mercy, the circle for dignity, and each time it bought her only shame. She will not crawl here, not again. Corvane halts directly in front of her, close enough that the heat of him cuts through the chill night air. His hand rises, fingers brushing a strand of her hair. For one frozen heartbeat, she wonders if he will spare her. Then his grip closes around her throat. Her feet leave the earth as he lifts her effortlessly, his arm like iron. Her hands claw at his wrist, but his hold does not falter. His eyes narrow, unreadable, as she kicks and gasps. Circle or stray, I kill what crosses my line. Her vision spots black. She cannot breathe, and yet, through the panic, something flares inside her, not terror, but defiance. If this is to be her end, she refuses to let her last gaze be one of fear. She stares into his burning eyes, unflinching. The world narrows to the crushing weight of his hand. Eryndra's lungs convulse, her vision blurs, but still she refuses to shut her eyes. If this is her death, she will not give him the satisfaction of seeing her break. She claws at his arm, her nails biting into scarred flesh, but his grip only tightens. The growl in his chest vibrates against her bones. Corvane is a storm contained in skin and muscle, and she knows with bone-deep certainty that he could snap her neck like kindling and forget her name before dawn. Yet, beneath the terror a spark ignites. Rage, not at him, but at the chains that have dragged her from one master to another. She has been sold, beaten, hunted. She will not die begging. Her lips part, and the words scrape past her strangled breath. If you kill me, you'll give them what they want. His eyes flicker, sharp and assessing. She forces the words out, one gasp at a time. This circle, they'll think you cleaned up their mess, that you finished what they couldn't. You'll give them the story they need. Corvane's hand doesn't loosen, but his head tilts, the faintest pause. She seizes it. They're afraid of you. That's why they didn't cross this line. If you let me live, if you keep me alive, they'll fear you more. Because I'm not broken. Because I'm theirs, and you took me. The forest seems to hold its breath. Even the leaves are still. Corvane's gaze bores into her, searching for weakness, for deceit. What he finds, instead, is something that has startled even the circle, a girl who will not bow, not even with death clawing at her throat. Slowly he lowers her until her boots scrape the dirt. His grip doesn't release, but his voice cuts the night, low and rough. You think I should spare you? That your life makes me stronger? Her throat burns, her lungs scream, but her chin lifts. Yes. The silence stretches. Then, without warning, he hurls her to the ground. She lands hard, coughing, clutching her bruised throat. Corvane stands over her, shadow vast and unyielding. You live, he says, his tone cold as iron. But not because you convinced me. You live because I want to see if you survive one night in my woods. He turns, vanishing into the trees, leaving her sprawled in the dirt, trembling, but alive, and utterly alone. The night closes in after he vanishes, heavy with silence. Eryndra lies in the dirt, her throat burning, lungs aching for air. She wants to collapse, to surrender to exhaustion, but fear drives her to her feet. Corvane said one night in his woods. She doesn't know if that was a sentence or a challenge, but she understands one truth. If she fails, she dies. Her legs shake as she stumbles after him, following the faintest rustle of branches, the whisper of weight too heavy to belong to deer or fox. Every step through the darkness is a dare, as though the forest itself waits for her to falter. The trees open suddenly into a clearing where firelight flickers. A crude shelter of timber and stone sits at its heart, smoke curling from its chimney. Corvane stands before it, bare-chested, skin marked by scars that gleam like pale lightning under the fire's glow. He doesn't look at her as she enters, doesn't acknowledge her struggle to stay upright. You're still here, he says, voice flat, as though her survival is neither surprising nor important. He tosses a skinned hair onto the ground, the scent of raw blood filling the air. Eat if you can, starve if you can't. No one will feed you here. Eryndra swallows, but refuses to lower her gaze. And if I run? His head turns, slow, deliberate. His eyes catch the firelight, red as embers. Then I hunt, and when I catch you, you won't beg the circle to take you back. You'll wish they had. The words settle over her like iron chains, heavier than the ropes the circle used to bind her. This isn't mercy. Not really. It's something sharper, harsher. A trial. She feels it in the weight of his stare, in the way he tests her resolve without lifting a hand. For the first time since her sale, no one has demanded her obedience. Corvane demands something else entirely. Proof. Survival. She kneels by the hair, her fingers trembling as she pulls a knife from the table, skinning clumsy but determined. Every slice is a vow. She will not fail. Not here, not now. Behind her, Corvane lowers himself onto a crude wooden chair, arms crossed, expression unreadable. The firelight deepens the shadows of his face until he looks more beast than man. You won't last, he says, simply, as if stating the weather. Not 1 week. But when she meets his gaze across the flames, her voice is steady. Watch me. Dawn in Corvane's woods is nothing like the pale mornings of her old pack. Here, the light is dim and reluctant, filtering through gnarled branches that claw at the sky. The forest feels alive, watching, every creak and rustle a warning. Eryndra wakes stiff on the hard ground, her throat still raw from his grip. Corvane is already moving, silent as a shadow, hefting an axe over one scarred shoulder. He doesn't greet her. He doesn't ask if she survived the night. Instead, he drops a bundle of tools at her feet, a crude blade, a coil of rope, a dented water skin. Fetch, he says. Her brows knit. Fetch what? Wood, water, meat, or die with nothing. His tone makes clear he doesn't care which she chooses. She stares at the forest edge. The circle's wolves might still linger out there, waiting, and Corvane knows it. This isn't an errand, it's a test. Her muscles ache, her stomach knots with hunger, but she clenches the blade tighter. Fine. The woods press in as she ventures deeper, each step echoing with the memory of pursuit. Every snapped twig, every distant howl makes her heart race, but she refuses to turn back. She scavenges fallen branches, hauls water from a creek so cold it numbs her hands, then stalks small game with patience born from desperation. Hours drag, but when she finally returns, sweat-soaked and trembling, the tools are full, the blade stained with blood. Corvane watches from the shadows of the clearing, arms folded. His gaze flicks to the wood stacked at her feet, the skin of the rabbit tied at her belt. He doesn't speak at first. His silence stretches, heavy and suffocating, as if he waiting for her to break under it. But Eryndra doesn't flinch. She sets the meat near the fire and meets his eyes. His jaw tightens. Not approval, not yet, but something different. A shift. The faintest sign that she's not as disposable as he first thought. "You're not prey," he mutters, finally, almost to himself. Then louder, "But don't mistake one good day for survival." Eryndra wipes the dirt from her palms, her voice steady despite her exhaustion. "I don't plan on surviving just one day." Night settles like a shroud over Corvane's forest. The fire crackles low, its glow catching the sharp angles of his face as he sits across from her. The silence between them isn't the silence of strangers. It's heavier, thrumming with unspoken things. Eryndra is too weary to care about his moods, but she feels his eyes on her as she sews the rabbit hide into a pouch. His gaze is sharp, assessing, not just her skill, but the quiet way she moves, the resolve in her hands. It is the look of a predator reconsidering what he thought was weak prey. "You've seen the circle's alphas up close," he says at last, voice a low rumble. "Tell me, do they still hunger to finish what they started?" She doesn't hesitate. They'll never stop. Her tone is flint on stone. Not until they've claimed everything, or until someone rips their crowns from their heads. A flicker of something passes in his expression, not surprise, not amusement, curiosity, maybe even respect. "You speak like a wolf, yet no bond burns in you, no mate, no pack to guard your back. Alone, you are nothing." Eryndra lifts her chin. "Then I'll be nothing that survives." For the first time, his mouth curves, not into a smile, but a dangerous, wolfish smirk. It unsettles her more than his scorn ever did. The fire spits, shadows stretching long around them, as if the forest itself leans closer to listen. Corvane leans forward too, eyes gleaming with something she cannot read. "You may be more than you seem, girl, and if you are..." He lets the thought trail off, letting her imagination claw at the silence. Then suddenly, the distant snap of a branch. Both their heads jerk toward the trees. A low growl builds in Corvane's chest as the scent of wolves carries on the wind. The circle's hounds are near, closer than either of them thought. And Eryndra realizes this test is far from over. Dawn bleeds pale light through the trees when Eryndra wakes, the memory of snapping branches still sharp in her mind. The wolves never came close enough to strike, but Corvane had risen in silence, his every muscle coiled, his nose lifted to the wind. He hadn't slept the rest of the night. Now he moves through the woods like the forest itself is his body. Every step, every glance, every pause is calculated. He doesn't tell her to follow, he expects it. And when she stumbles, he doesn't stop to help. He only looks back with those flint-colored eyes, a reminder that weakness here is death. "Step where I step," he orders once, voice low but sharp. "Breathe with the wind, not against it. If you can't, you'll never last." Eryndra obeys, but not blindly. She studies the way his weight presses into the earth, how he uses silence like a weapon. She learns quickly because she has no choice. Her survival depends on it. When he pauses at a stream, he makes her drink the icy water and then orders her to run until her lungs burn. When she slows, he snaps again. When she curses under her breath, his mouth twitches with what might almost be amusement. Her body aches, her palms raw, her legs trembling. But with each hour that passes, she feels a change. She is no longer the girl who was dragged before the circle like a lamb to slaughter. Each step teaches her something primal: how to listen to the earth, how to smell danger, how to trust the rhythm of her body instead of her fear. Corvane watches, impassive at first, but by nightfall, when she collapses against a tree and still lifts her chin instead of begging for rest, his expression shifts. He says nothing, yet the silence between them has changed. She can feel it. For the first time, Eryndra senses that she is not just surviving the woods, she is claiming them, piece by piece, as her own. Far beyond the silence of the woods, rumors begin to stir. At first, they're no more than fragments carried by trembling scouts and uneasy merchants, whispers of a girl who vanished into the cursed domain of the lone alpha and never returned. The circle scoffs at the thought. No one survives Corvane, they remind themselves. His woods are a death sentence, a place where even seasoned hunters vanish without trace. Yet the whispers grow, repeated by too many mouths, spoken with too much certainty. Some claim they saw her shadow in the tree line. Others swear they caught the scent of an unfamiliar wolf lingering with Corvane's. In the halls of power, the laughter begins to falter. If Eryndra has survived, if she is under Corvane's protection, or worse, his training, then everything changes. The circle's balance of power relies on fear, and nothing is more dangerous than a pawn who refuses to stay broken. For Korath, the whispers land like knives. Each rumor is a reminder that the girl he sold as if she were nothing may now hold value greater than he imagined. He had offered her as a token to secure his place among them, believing her life a cheap price for power. But now, his allies' eyes narrow on him. If she lives, why did you fail to crush her? Why let her slip into Corvane's hands? The circle's unity begins to strain. Ambition gnaws at their pact, suspicion turning allies into predators, circling each other. Who will move first? Who will risk Corvane's wrath if the whispers prove true? And through the forest, Corvane moves in silence, unaware, or perhaps unconcerned, that the mere act of sparing one girl has already rippled outward, shaking thrones and alliances. Eryndra doesn't yet know it, but her survival has become a spark, carried on the wind. And sparks, once fanned by rumor, can ignite fire. Korath had always believed fear was a weapon he wielded against others. It was the foundation of his rule, the edge that carved loyalty from trembling throats. But now, as he sat in the circle's chamber, surrounded by the sharp-eyed alphas he once sought to impress, fear turned its claws inward. The whispers had grown too loud to dismiss. Eryndra, the girl he sold, the girl he discarded like nothing, They said she lived. Worse, they said she lived under Corvane's shadow. Korath masked his unease with arrogance, scoffing at every mention. "A pup cannot tame a storm," he sneered, but his allies weren't convinced. Their gazes lingered too long, their silences too heavy. Each alpha of the circle weighed him now, not as an equal, but as a liability. If she truly lives, then what use is Korath? That question throbbed in the air unspoken. The circle was an alliance of strength, of dominance. To sell his own wolf and yet fail to ensure her death, that reeked of weakness, and weakness in this chamber was nothing short of fatal. When the meeting ended, Korath stalked back to his halls, but the whispers followed him still, slithering in the shadows of his mind. He told himself it was impossible. Corvane wouldn't keep her. Corvane had no mate, no pack, no bond. He was a predator, not a savior. Eryndra was prey. She couldn't have survived, unless she was far stronger than he ever realized. That thought unsettled him most of all. He had never truly looked at her, never wondered what might lie beneath her quiet defiance. He had only seen her as a tool to be traded. But if Corvane saw something else, if Corvane sharpened her into a weapon, then Korath had not just discarded a pawn. He had created an enemy. That night, for the first time in years, he struggled to sleep. Every creak of the walls, every howl in the distance, made his pulse quicken. He poured himself another drink, convincing himself he still had power, that the circle would not turn on him. But deep down, he already knew the truth. If Eryndra lived, then his days of standing unchallenged were numbered. And then came the messenger, panting, terrified, bearing news that made his blood run cold. She was seen, the scout stammered, in the woods, with him. The woods are a merciless teacher. Every step I take seems designed to break me, roots to trip me, thorns to tear my skin, shadows to hide the eyes that stalk me. And always, Corvane watches, silent, measuring, a predator studying prey. I tell myself I hate his gaze, that it burns through me with disdain. But there are moments, brief, dangerous moments, when I catch something else flickering there. Curiosity, the faintest glimmer of restraint, as if part of him wants to strike me down, but another part waits to see what I'll do next. It is in those cracks of silence that something unspoken grows between us. Not trust, not yet, but something fragile, something I don't dare name. I prove myself in small ways. I track a rabbit and bring it down clumsily with a stone. He says nothing, but later he doesn't share his kill with me, forcing me to eat what I earned. I take it as approval. Another day, when my legs tremble from exhaustion, he doesn't mock me. He simply sets a faster pace, daring me to keep up. And I do. But the night that changes everything comes by firelight. We sit apart, a stretch of earth between us. He sharpens his blade. I stare into the flames. For the first time since entering these woods, I speak without fear of his silence. Korath sold me, traded me like a trinket for his throne. The knife in his hand stills. His eyes lift, steady and unreadable. I expect mockery, maybe even indifference, but instead I see recognition, like my words awakens something buried in him. He says finally, voice low, "I know what it is to be betrayed by blood." The firelight flickers across his scarred face, shadows carving deeper lines into the man the world calls a monster. For the first time, I don't see the predator in him. I see the wound. Neither of us say more, but when he rises and tosses me a cloak against the night's chill, I realize something dangerous. In this place where survival means solitude, Corvane has chosen not to let me freeze. It is not forgiveness, it is not safety, but it is a beginning. The fire is nearly ash by the time I find the courage to speak again. Sleep doesn't come easily in these woods, not when every snap of a branch might mean teeth and claws waiting in the dark. But tonight, it isn't the forest that keeps me awake. It's the weight inside me. I glance at Corvane. He sits with his back to a tree, blade across his knees, eyes closed but never fully at rest. He looks carved from stone, unmovable. And yet, I know he listens. He always listens. "You want to know why I'm here?" I murmur. My voice feels too loud in the hush of the night. Why I crossed into your woods instead of dying where they left me? His eyes open, pale and piercing. He doesn't speak, but the silence is permission enough. So I tell him. I speak of the circle, of their mocking eyes and cruel laughter as I was dragged before them like meat at market. I speak of Korath's cold indifference, how he watched my humiliation as though it meant nothing. And I tell him of the moment I realized no one, not a single soul in my pack, would rise for me. I had been nothing more than a trade, a price worth paying for his ambition. My voice shakes, but I do not stop. I won't. I thought I would die in those woods when I ran. Part of me wanted to, but I didn't. I kept moving because I couldn't let them win. I couldn't let him win. When I finally dared to look up, Corvane is watching me. Not with the cold detachment he wears like armor, but with something else, something sharp and heavy, like a truth neither of us wants to face. His voice is quiet, almost reluctant. You've been broken, but not shattered. Heat rushes through me, though it isn't from the dying fire. For the first time, someone has seen me. Not the pawn, not the offering, not the girl sold, but the wolf who refused to die. And in that gaze, I feel the spark of something dangerous. Not just survival, but belonging. The fire dies into embers, the woods holding their breath in the stillness of night. I think my confession has ended in silence, that Corvane has nothing left to say. He sits, unmoving, his scars catching what little light remains, eyes unreadable. Then his voice cuts through the dark, low, certain. One day, he says, "He will crawl to you." I freeze, his words sinking deep, heavier than stone. "Korath?" I whisper, tasting the name like poison. Corvane's gaze sharpens. "The one who sold you. The circle will turn on him. They already doubt him. And when they break him, when they strip him of the power he betrayed you for, he will come. He will beg." I want to laugh, to scoff at the image of Korath on his knees, but instead unease curls through me. The thought of facing him again stirs something raw. Anger, yes, but also fear. Fear of seeing him, of remembering how easily he cast me aside. Corvane sees it all. He doesn't look away. He continues. "You will need to decide what you'll do with him. Spare him, destroy him, leave him in chains. Whatever choice you make, it will define you." His tone is neither gentle nor cruel. It is a truth spoken like prophecy. I draw the cloak tighter around me, though the night isn't colder than before. I ask, "And if I choose wrong?" A flicker of something, dark amusement, maybe, admiration, touches his mouth. There are no wrong choices, only choices you must live with. He rises then, towering above me, his shadow long against the dying light. Without another word, he disappears into the trees, leaving me with the echo of his warning. Alone by the fire, I stare into the embers until they glow like molten eyes. His words loop in my mind, relentless. He will crawl to you. I don't want to believe it. I don't want to imagine it. But in my chest, where fear once lived, something else stirs. Something sharper. A part of me almost wants it to be true. The circle had always relied on whispers to control fear, to manipulate their rivals and keep their own pack in line. But now, the whispers are no longer theirs to wield. They are turning against them. From distant scouts, merchants, and wandering hunters, news trickles in like poison. Eryndra lives. Not only that, she is in the domain of Corvane, the lone alpha, the wolf no one dares challenge. The stories are growing, embroidered with exaggeration, and yet each tale carries a dangerous kernel of truth. She survives, thrives even, under the protection of the most feared alpha outside the circle. The alphas of the alliance gather in an uneasy council. Each one senses the shift, the tremor in the balance of power. Conversations begin in whispers, quick glances cutting deeper than swords. Some say the girl is not just alive, she has learned the ways of the woods, honed by Corvane's harsh tutelage, becoming something none of them expected, something dangerous. Korath sits at the center, a flicker of unease cracking the armor of his arrogance. He tries to dismiss the rumors, laughing too loudly, gesturing too much, but the tension in the chamber is palpable. The circle sees it too in the tightening jaws, the narrowed eyes, the subtle recoiling from his presence. Questions ripple through the room, unspoken but sharp. How could you let her slip? How could you fail so completely? And worse, if she continues to survive, if she grows under Corvane's watch, then Korath's value to the circle diminishes further. The girl he sold as a pawn could soon become a weapon against him, and the thought makes his blood run cold. Outside, the winds carry the scent of change. Hunters and scouts report seeing a black-furred wolf moving alongside a girl with fiery determination in her eyes. Corvane's presence alone is enough to make lesser wolves hesitate, but together they are becoming a force whispered about with awe and dread alike. The circle's leaders glance at one another, tension coiling like a spring ready to snap. Their alliance is built on strength, intimidation, and the fear of loss. But now, the very foundation trembles. The whispers are no longer just rumors. They are a warning. The balance of power is shifting, and the girl who was once sold is no longer prey. Somewhere in the shadows, Korath realizes with a growing chill in his chest that the first crack in his empire has already begun. The circle gathers in a storm of fury. Their chambers, usually polished and calm, echo with the sharp clash of tempers. Alphas argue, their claws metaphorically bared, teeth unseen but felt in every pointed accusation. They are not used to failure, not when they have built their power on dominance, control, and fear. "She lives?" hisses one alpha, voice thin with disbelief. "The girl he sold, she dares survive?" "She is not just surviving, she is thriving, under Corvane's protection, and he trains her. He sharpens her into something deadly." Korath remains at the center, posture rigid, jaw tight. He tries to mask the terror curling inside him with a forced calm. "She is nothing," he asserts, voice sharp. "A pawn, misplaced and weak. Corvane will not." But even he feels the weight of the other's stares. Their eyes pierce him like daggers. The circle does not tolerate weakness, and his failure is a festering wound now visible to all. They speak quickly, their plans weaving together like a trap ready to spring. Korath is to be tested.
humiliated, and forced to prove himself or face removal. The girl, Eryndra, must be hunted. The whispers about her must end, and Corvane must be reminded that no one challenges the circle and survives unscathed. Every word of the meeting carries venom. Every motion, every nod, every whispered strategy screams retribution. Korath swallows hard, feeling the noose of their wrath tightening around his ambitions. His pack, yet loyal, yet uncertain, senses the tension too. Fear spreads among them like wildfire, feeding the circle's hunger for control. Outside, the forest waits in silence, oblivious to the plotting inside the walls. But the winds carry a foreboding scent, the hint of approaching chaos. Somewhere in those shadows, Eryndra trains, sharpens, and grows stronger under Corvane's watchful eye, oblivious for now to the storm gathering beyond the trees. And Korath realizes, with a sudden icy certainty, that the circle will not be merciful. They will strike. They will take everything he has, or destroy him trying. The die has been cast, and the first moves toward war are already underway.
The walls of his hall close in like a cage. Korath paces, each step echoing against cold stone, each heartbeat a reminder of the failure he cannot escape. The circle's anger hangs over him like a storm cloud, threatening to crush everything he has built. He had imagined power, respect, even fear as his armor. But now, even his closest lieutenants avoid his gaze, their whispers sharper than any claw. She lives, under Corvane, strong, unbroken. The words gnaw at him, relentless, a reminder of the price he paid for ambition, betrayal of the only thing he once held as his own. Korath's hands clench into fists. Rage burns, thick and bitter as he thinks of the girl who once trembled at his command. She should have been weak. She should have bowed. And now she walks free, trained by the monster he feared most, and the thought twists something in his chest, suffocating. He slams a fist against the wall, and the stone shivers, echoing like the pulse of his mounting panic. His mind races, strategizing, bargaining, praying for some edge. Every option seems impossible. Every plan feels doomed. "I cannot lose her," he whispers into the dark hall, voice hoarse, trembling with desperation. "She is everything, the key, the leverage, the only way to survive the circle's wrath." Even as he speaks, the realization claws deeper. He cannot face her now. Not yet. Not without preparation, without a plan to bend her will, without some fragment of power left to bargain with. And the longer he waits, the stronger she grows under Corvane's watch. His vision darkens with the thought of approaching war, the circle striking his pack, Corvane's shadow looming over every step he takes. Panic flares hot and cold inside him, a storm he cannot quell. For the first time in his life, Korath feels powerless. And yet, he cannot stay still. He cannot wait. He must find her. Before the circle destroys him, before Corvane claims her fully, before she becomes something he can no longer command, no longer influence. Somewhere, deep in the forest, she sharpens her claws, strengthens her resolve, unaware that the man who betrayed her is already on a path toward her. Driven by fear, desperation, and a haunting need for mercy he does not deserve.
The days in Corvane's woods are relentless. Every dawn brings new trials, every night tests endurance, and every shadow carries the echo of survival. I am no longer the girl dragged before the circle, trembling and powerless. Each muscle in my body has been honed, each sense sharpened. I move with a precision born from necessity, not arrogance. Corvane watches me constantly, not with indulgence, not with mercy, but with scrutiny. He corrects my stance, critiques my strikes, forces me to run until my lungs burn and my legs threaten to give way.
I feel the ache of transformation in every fiber of my being, and I embrace it. This is no longer punishment. This is preparation. The forest itself becomes a classroom. I learn to track prey, to sense danger before it announces itself, to read the wind as easily as I read the expressions on the circle's faces. Corvane rarely speaks of strategy, but he teaches in subtle ways: how to move unseen, how to anticipate aggression, how to exploit the weaknesses in both wolf and man. One evening, as the sky bleeds purple and gold, I strike a target he has set in the clearing. The rabbit falls swiftly, cleanly, my hand steady despite exhaustion. Corvane does not smile, but the faintest lift of his brow registers as acknowledgement. I feel something stir. Not pride, not triumph, but awareness. I am changing. I am becoming something new, something more. The whispers of the circle drift on the wind, and for the first time, I do not fear them. Instead, they fuel me, reminding me that the world I once knew, where I was nothing, is gone. I am not prey. I am predator. I am neither a pawn nor a victim. As night falls and the fire crackles, Corvane sits across from me, silent but alert. His eyes catch mine for a fleeting moment, and I sense an unspoken agreement. My growth is not just survival. It is preparation for the storm that is coming. The circle's wrath will not find the frightened girl they once expected. They will find a wolf, sharpened, fearless, and ready. And in that moment, I understand the truth of Corvane's silent training. Power is not given, it is earned, and I have begun to claim mine. The night is cool, and the forest holds its breath. Corvane and I sit close to the fire, though not near enough to claim warmth from each other. The embers crackle, sending flickers of light across his scarred face, catching the intensity in his eyes. For weeks, he has been my instructor, my predator, my unspoken judge, and now there is something different in the air, something neither of us admits aloud. He reaches for the last of the rabbit we hunted, slicing it with precise movements. Our hands brush just enough to send a ripple through me, sharp, unexpected, and undeniable. I pull back instinctively, heart thudding in a rhythm I cannot control. He doesn't comment, doesn't laugh, doesn't scold. Instead, he simply watches me with those piercing eyes, as if testing me not for survival, but for something deeper. "Your hand shakes," he murmurs, finally, voice low and steady. Not from exhaustion. I stiffen, unsure whether to deny it. How do you explain that your pulse betrays more than your body can? That fear and curiosity and something dangerously akin to anticipation all coil inside you at once? I start, then stop, aware of the tension between us, the unspoken rules neither of us wants to break. He leans slightly closer, a shadow of a predator's grace, and for a heartbeat, I see a flicker of something almost human. Concern, curiosity, something more primal that makes my chest tighten. "You are changing," he says, softer than I have ever heard. "Stronger, smarter, more dangerous." And his voice trails off, leaving the thought unfinished, hanging like smoke over the fire. I sense it, an acknowledgement neither of us dares speak. We are no longer teacher and prey. Something is growing in this space between us, something forbidden, yet unavoidable. Then, a distant howl shatters the moment, reminding us that the world beyond the forest has not stopped. Instantly, the subtle tension snapped back into the hard lines of survival. Corvane rises, and I follow, each of us aware that what lingers between us must remain unspoken, at least for now. But as we moved through the trees, side by side, I feel it in my chest,
The spark has been lit, and neither of us can deny it. Not entirely.
Night falls like a velvet curtain over the forest, the silver moon spilling pale light across the clearing where Corvane and I pause. Every tree, every shadow feels alive, watching, waiting. The circle's whispers still haunt the edges of my mind, reminders that the world I once knew has shifted irrevocably. Corvane stands a step ahead of me, silent and unyielding, the very image of danger and authority. I glance at him, feeling the weight of his presence, and realize the truth. Under his guidance, I am no longer the girl who trembled at the market or in Korath's halls. I am something forged by fire, sharpened by trial, and tempered by instinct. I kneel briefly to adjust the strap on my pack, feeling the muscles in my arms and legs protest, yet knowing they carry the strength to survive anything that comes. Then I rise, and without a word, I make a silent decision, one that courses through me with the clarity of steel. I will never be powerless again, I whisper, voice steady, resonating in the quiet woods. Corvane turns slightly, just enough to catch the edge of my determination. He doesn't smile, doesn't nod, but I sense approval, respect, perhaps even a glimmer of acknowledgement that I am no longer just surviving, but becoming formidable. The wind shifts, carrying the faint scent of distant wolves. Somewhere, the circle plots. Korath writhes in fear, and the world outside the forest prepares for chaos. I know what must come next. I know that the trials we face are only beginning, but for the first time, I feel ready, not merely to endure, but to confront, to fight, and to take what is mine by right of strength and will. I meet Corvane's eyes fully, letting him see the fire burning inside me. Not fear, not pleading, not weakness. Resolve. He inclines his head once, almost imperceptibly, before he moves forward, silent and commanding, as though leading the forest itself. I fall into step beside him, our shadows merging in the moonlight. And as we disappear into the trees, I know the vow I have made will be tested sooner than I imagine. Because Korath will not stay broken forever, and when he comes crawling, I will be waiting. The first howl of war rises before dawn, sharp and unrelenting, echoing through the valleys like a warning of the chaos to come. The serpal moves with precision, their combined strength descending on Korath's pack with ruthless intent. Smoke curls from torches, and the clash of claws and teeth resounds like thunder. Korath stands at the center of the carnage, a fractured king watching his empire crumble. His warriors fall around him, their howls of pain and rage mingling with the circle's unyielding assault. For the first time, he tastes true fear. Every strategy, every alliance he believed would secure his place among the strongest fails before his eyes. And yet, amid the destruction, one truth gnaws at him. Eryndra survives. She is not cowering, she is not begging. She is out there, somewhere beyond the reach of his failure, and the thought eats at his pride with merciless hunger. The circle moves like a living blade, each alpha coordinating the attack with deadly efficiency. Korath's pack is outmatched, outnumbered, and outclassed, and he knows it. His claws strike, his teeth snap, but it is not enough. Every moment prolongs the inevitable. Outside the chaos, the wind carries a scent that makes his chest tighten, the unmistakable trace of her. She has grown beyond his imagination, beyond the control he once wielded over her. And somewhere, beyond sight and sound, she moves with Corvane, the lone alpha whose presence alone demands respect, whose reputation alone bends lesser wolves to fear.
Korath falters, chest heaving. His pack is being shredded, his allies retreating or falling, and the circle closes in, eyes glinting with the thrill of victory. He realizes with a pang of dread that survival now is not guaranteed, and even if he lives, he cannot fight her. Not yet. The battle rages, but one thought anchors him, icy and desperate. I must find her. I must bend her will. She is the only thing that can save what remains of me. And in the shadows beyond the circle's onslaught, a pair of eyes watches, the eyes of a girl sharpened by fire, standing beside the most feared alpha alive, ready for the storm that will come.
Korath's claws scrape the earth. His teeth snap with fury, but it's futile. Every move he makes is countered, every strategy anticipated by alphas whose hatred is sharper than any blade. His pack dwindles before his eyes. Strong wolves he once relied on fall to the circle's relentless precision. The forest echoes with the screams of the wounded, the howls of the dying, and Korath's own shouts of rage. He had traded a girl for power, believing himself untouchable, yet here he stands, humbled by the very chaos he sought to command. The circle's wrath has stripped him bare, revealing the brittle skeleton beneath his crown of arrogance. Each failed strike tightens the knot in his chest. The girl he sold, the one he thought would never rise, still haunts the edges of his thoughts. He cannot face her yet, cannot confront what he has created. And the knowledge claws at him with merciless insistence. She may very well be the only force capable of bending Corvane, the lone alpha, whose shadow stretches like a blade over the battlefield. Korath falters, falling to one knee as a powerful alpha pins him, teeth bared, growl vibrating through the forest. He tastes dirt and blood, feels the weight of failure pressing down like a mountain. His body thrums with pain, but it is nothing compared to the shame that coils around his heart. I will survive, he whispers, more to himself than anyone else, but the sound is hollow. He is beaten, broken in ways that claws cannot heal. Pride shredded, packs scattered, alliances crumbling. He is a king dethroned, stripped of all authority. From the corner of the battlefield, he catches sight of movement, a flash of dark fur, and a girl with fire in her eyes. Her presence burns hotter than the circle's torches, sharper than the blades that tore through his defenses. And though she does not approach, though she says nothing, the weight of her gaze alone is enough to hollow him from the inside. For the first time, Korath understands the truth of his own vulnerability. He is powerless, utterly, and the only hope for what remains of him rests in the hands of the girl he once betrayed. The forest holds its breath, the circle pauses, and the air hums with anticipation. Somewhere beyond the war, the girl watches, calculating, ready to decide whether mercy or destruction will fall upon the one who sold her. Korath staggers through the remnants of his shattered pack, bloodied, broken, and stripped of authority. Every step aches, but it is nothing compared to the weight pressing on his pride. His claws tear at the dirt. His teeth grind against frustration and fear. Yet he cannot stop moving. He must reach her, the girl he sold, the one who now holds the power to decide his fate. The circle has left his pack in ruins. The howls of wounded wolves echo in the distance, a chorus of defeat he neither escape nor undo. He had believed strength, alliances, and cunning could protect him, yet he finds himself crawling through the forest, reduced to begging for the mercy he once withheld from her. Every shadow looms with threat. Every rustle of leaves is a potential ambush. Korath's senses are on fire, attuned to danger, yet it is not fear of attack that drives him. It is desperation. The girl, trained under Corvane's ruthless watch, is no longer the frightened pawn he could control. She has grown sharp, lethal, and unyielding.
and he knows that only her intervention can save the fragments of his pack. His breaths come ragged, body trembling with exertion and humiliation. He dares not think of Corvane, the lone alpha who towers in his domain, whose mere presence would tear him apart if she does not intercede. He cannot face that strength on his own. Not now, not ever. Hours pass. The moon rises higher, pale and unforgiving. Finally, he sees her silhouette, a figure moving with confidence and grace among the trees. Heart pounding, Korath collapses to one knee, the words choking in his throat before they escape. "Eryndra, please." He cannot demand, cannot command, only plead. The desperation in his voice is raw, exposed, a man stripped of every pretense. He must rely on the mercy of the one he betrayed, and the knowledge of that truth burns hotter than any shame he has ever felt. Somewhere in the shadows, unseen, Corvane watches. His eyes are unreadable, but Korath knows one thing with chilling certainty. The decision is not his to make. And for the first time, Korath understands what it truly means to be powerless.
Korath's presence cracks the silence like a broken branch underfoot. He kneels in the clearing, rugged, humiliated, and bleeding, not from wounds alone, but from the crushing weight of his own failure. His eyes lift to meet mine, wild with desperation. And for a moment, I see the man he once pretended to be, the Alpha King who traded me for ambition. Corvane stands beside me, tall and unyielding, the shadows of his power stretching across the clearing. I feel the warmth of his presence, the unspoken readiness in his posture. One move from him, and Korath would be nothing more than ash scattered to the wind. Yet, I do not flinch. I do not step back. Korath stammers, voice hoarse and trembling. I need your help. Please." The words taste bitter to my ears. He who sold me, discarded me, now kneels for mercy, and the forest seems to hold its breath, waiting for my response. Rage, anger, and the faintest spark of something unresolved churn inside me. But I have changed. I am no longer the frightened girl who once trembled before him. I have claws, strength, and will enough to decide what justice looks like. Corvane's eyes meet mine, not with command, but with trust. A silent acknowledgement that this choice is mine alone. I inhale, feeling the weight of my vow settle in my chest. I will never be powerless again. You will live, but only because your wolves do not deserve the cruelty you have sown. You will follow me, and your survival depends on your obedience. Korath flinches, hope and terror warring in his gaze. Relief flickers in him, but it is tempered by the recognition that he is no longer the master of his fate. He nods, swallowing pride, swallowing fear, and bows his head. Corvane's jaw tightens slightly, but he says nothing. His presence remains a silent warning. Any false move, any defiance, and Korath will taste consequences far worse than death. The forest exhales, the tension easing just enough to let the truth settle. I am no longer a pawn. I am the arbiter of justice, the wielder of mercy, the wolf who decides who lives and who bends beneath her. Korath crawled to me. I spared him, but only on my terms. The clearing holds a heavy quiet, the promise of future battles lingering like smoke on the wind. The clearing is quiet now, but the tension is far from over. Korath kneels, humbled and trembling, while his pack watches him with uncertainty, unsure whether to obey or scatter. Around us, the forest seems to pulse with expectation, as if it knows that the next decision will shape not just their fates, but the balance of power across the territory. I take a slow breath, feeling the weight of Corvane's presence beside me. He doesn't speak, but I can feel the silent strength in his stance, the unyielding authority that has molded me into someone capable of making this choice. I look at Korath, at the man who sold me, at the broken alpha whose ambition once seemed untouchable, and I make my decision. You will live, I repeat, but this time my voice carries power, certainty, and unflinching command. You will live, not for you, but for your wolves. You have led them poorly, but they do not deserve your cruelty. They deserve the chance to survive, and they will follow the new order. Korath bows lower, swallowing hard, the relief and humiliation warring in his expression. He knows this is mercy, not kindness. It is a gift given on my terms, not his. He will remember that. He will never forget. Turning to Corvane, I meet his eyes fully, letting him see the resolve that has grown sharper with every trial, every night spent under his watch, every wound and every lesson. I say, we gather what remains. Together we will rebuild. Together we will strike back at the circle, and together we will ensure no one dares challenge us again. He inclines his head slightly, a rare acknowledgement of respect, as if confirming silently that I have become the leader, the strategist, the wolf who can command fear and loyalty alike. The remnants of Korath's pack shift under my gaze, uncertain, but the authority in my tone leaves no room for defiance. Slowly, they move toward us, their loyalty transferring from a failed king to a queen who has earned it. I feel the fire in me settle, the satisfaction of control and justice tempered by the awareness that greater battles lie ahead. The circle has yet to fall, but the first step is taken. I have chosen the path, and there is no turning back. The forest watches, quiet and patient, as the girl once sold becomes the force who will reshape the territory, and Corvane's presence reminds me that I do not face the future alone. The night is alive with movement. The remnants of Korath's pack move quietly through the forest, guided by my commands and reinforced by Corvane's imposing presence. Every wolf, every hunter, every shadowed figure is accounted for, ready to strike when the time comes. We are no longer fractured. We are a force gathering strength in the darkness, poised to challenge the circle itself. Korath trails behind, silent and obedient, a living reminder of the consequences of betrayal. His pride is shattered, his authority stripped, and yet he clings to life, not for himself, but for the fragile hope that he might yet survive under my terms. I sense his fear, his desperation, but I feel no mercy beyond what I have already granted. He will remember that, always. Corvane moves beside me, his eyes scanning the horizon with predator instinct, every muscle coiled, ready to strike. There is no softness in him now, only lethal precision, and a subtle, unspoken acknowledgement of the trust we share. Together, we are a storm forming on the edges of the territory, a force no alpha dared predict. I pause for a moment, letting the forest breathe around us, listening to the wind through the trees. The circle of five may believe they are untouchable, that their combined power is absolute, but they have underestimated the one they sold, the one who refused to break, and the lone alpha who has taught her to wield her strength like a blade. Korath glances at me, lips pressed into a thin line,
as if sensing the weight of what is coming. I do not look back. My eyes are fixed on the path ahead, the path to the circle's stronghold where the next battle waits. And in the shadows beyond the trees, I catch the faint glimmer of movement, not from my pack, not from Korath, not even from Corvane. Something else is there, watching, waiting. The hairs on the back of my neck rise. The forest falls silent for a heartbeat, as if the world itself holds its breath. A new threat waits, one I cannot yet clearly see. And with that realization, I know the true test is only beginning.
Dawn breaks with a crimson sky, the first light spilling across the valley like blood. The circle of 5 awaits, their packs arrayed in rigid formation, claws digging into the earth, eyes gleaming with arrogance and anticipation. They believe themselves untouchable, that the combined might of their alliance can crush anything in their path. I stand at the forefront, Corvane beside me, the remnants of Korath's pack flanking our sides. Every wolf is taut with readiness, muscles coiled like drawn steel. The air hums with tension, the quiet before the storm. And for the first time, I feel the true weight of command, the responsibility for victory and the lives of those who follow me rests squarely on my shoulders. The circle strikes first. The ground shudders under the force of their charge, a living wall of fury and feral precision. Claws tear through underbrush, teeth snap with lethal intent, and the battle erupts with the raw chaos of war. The forest becomes a blur of motion, shadow, and sound. Wolves fight beside wolves, the smell of blood and sweat thick in the air. Corvane moves like a shadow, silent and deadly, his power radiating through every strike. I follow, no longer prey, no longer trembling. Every lesson, every trial, every night spent in the woods has forged me into a predator who can anticipate, strike, and command. I move through the chaos with precision, leading the pack, protecting the wounded, exploiting the circle's mistakes. Korath is at my rear, silent and obedient, a reminder of how far the balance of power has shifted. His pack fights desperately, but their coordination is faltering. Each fallen alpha is another crack in the circle's facade of invincibility, and with every strike, I sense the tide turning. The battle is far from over, but already the circle falters. Their arrogance gives way to confusion, then fear. They realize too late that the girl they once mocked, the girl who was sold, is no longer someone to underestimate. And at the center of it all, I see Corvane's eyes meet mine, a spark of acknowledgement passing between us. This war has begun, and we are the storm they never expected. The first clash is won, but the circle still breathes, and they will strike back. The battlefield is littered with the echoes of victory and the groans of the wounded. The circle's packs scatter, disoriented and broken, their confidence shattered by the relentless assault led by Corvane and me. Yet the true work begins only now, gathering the remnants, forging a new order from the ashes of what once was. I move among the scattered wolves, my voice cutting through the chaos, commanding attention. Follow me, I call, and the strongest, the most loyal, the frightened, and the weary all respond. They sense the authority I carry, not inherited, not given, but earned in every trial, every wound, every moment of survival. I do not plead, I do not bargain, I lead. Corvane follows close, silent, his presence a shield and a promise. Together, we move through the ranks of the broken circle, offering them a choice: allegiance under our rule or exile into the wilderness with no protection. Few hesitate. Even those who once opposed us recognize the inevitability of our power. Korath trails behind, a shadow of the alpha he once was, and his pack mirrors his uncertainty.
They watch as their former leader bows not to the circle, not to his own ambition, but to the authority I now wield. And slowly, the pieces fall into place. The scattered packs join under a single banner, their loyalty no longer fractured by fear or deceit, but by respect for strength tempered with justice. The forest itself seems to exhale, as if acknowledging the shift in power. Wolves once divided now move as one, a force greater than the sum of its parts, bound by survival, trust, and the promise of leadership they can believe in. I glance at Corvane. His jaw tightens slightly, approving without words. We do not speak. None is needed. The unification is complete, the foundation of a super pack forged in fire and blood. Our eyes meet briefly, the faintest spark of something unspoken passing between us, a promise of shared victory, shared power, and perhaps something more. And yet the circle still lurks, still breathes. Their ultimate challenge waits beyond the horizon, and the war is far from over. But for this moment, in this fragile silence, the largest, most feared pack in the territory begins to take its shape, and it is ours.
The clearing is silent, but the weight of presence is immense. Wolves from every defeated pack stand in disciplined formation, their eyes reflecting loyalty, fear, and respect. The air is thick with anticipation, every paw step echoing the rhythm of authority. I step forward, feeling the pulse of power that has grown inside me, no longer borrowed, no longer taught, but fully claimed. Corvane moves beside me, a shadowed pillar of strength, his gaze scanning the assembled pack. I sense his approval, quiet and unyielding, and it steadies me. Together, we are not just leaders, we are the apex, the force to which all others bend, the rulers forged in the crucible of battle and survival. I raise my voice, steady and commanding, carrying over the quiet forest. All who stand before me now have a choice: follow, serve and fight with honor, or leave and never return. This is the new order. Murmurs ripple through the ranks, and one by one the wolves incline their heads, submission mingled with trust. Even Korath's pack shifts, their eyes darting toward me, recognition dawning that their former alpha is no longer sovereign. The balance has shifted irreversibly. A sense of triumph hums through me, but it is tempered with discipline. Leadership is not granted by victory alone. It is earned with each decision, each strategy, each life preserved. I step further into the center of the clearing, letting every wolf feel my presence, my authority, my command. They do not need to fear me, they need to respect the power I embody. Corvane's eyes meet mine once more, and I sense the unspoken acknowledgement. The crown of power is mine, and we are unstoppable together. There is no mate bond, no predestined claim, only choice, loyalty, and the understanding that strength earned binds more tightly than fate ever could. The forest seems to lean in, the wind carrying the scent of blood and victory, whispers of challenge fading into awe. In this moment, I am no longer the girl who was sold, humiliated, or hunted. I am the queen of the strongest pack in existence, sovereign, untouchable. And as I gaze across the formation of united wolves, I know that the circle, scattered and broken, will learn this truth the moment they dare to rise again. Korath kneels at the edge of the clearing, a shadow of the alpha he once claimed to be. His pack surrounds him, ragged, uncertain, their loyalty fractured, their pride shattered. The once mighty alpha who sold me now trembles under my gaze, stripped of power, stripped of pride, and painfully aware that his survival depends entirely on my mercy. I step forward, each footfall deliberate, echoing like the drumbeat of judgment through the hushed forest. The wind carries the scent of battle won and of authority claimed. I do not need to raise my voice. The weight of my presence alone commands attention. Korath flinches slightly as my eyes meet his, and I savor the power he cannot reclaim. You live, I say slowly, deliberately, letting the words settle like a stone in the pit of his chest. You live, not because you deserve it, not because I pity you, but because the wolves who follow you do not deserve to perish for your ambition. Your survival is a gift, I grant, but one that binds you forever under my command. He bows lower, trembling, swallowing hard as the truth pierces him deeper than any claw ever could. His pack shifts uneasily, sensing the irrevocable change in hierarchy. For the first time, they do not follow him, they follow me, and Korath knows it. He will never forget it. Corvane stands beside me, silent and imposing, his presence a stark reminder of what real strength looks like. He does not interfere, does not speak. The punishment is mine alone to deliver. The forest, too, seems to acknowledge it, every tree and shadow leaning in to witness the fall of a king and the rise of the girl he betrayed. Korath dares not meet my eyes, focusing instead on the ground, the humiliation carving into him like ice. He had believed power was his to wield, that ambition justified cruelty, and now he is powerless, completely, utterly. I turn to Corvane, and in that brief glance, we both understand the gravity of what has been wrought. Korath will live, but his life is no longer his own. Every action, every decision, every breath he takes is under the shadow of the girl he once sold. The forest exhales, and in the quiet, the message is clear. Betrayal is remembered, and justice, even merciful justice, is infinitely more powerful when wielded by the one wronged. The forest has quieted. The battle scars of the circle's defeat are everywhere. The fallen, the wounded, the silent tension of survival. Yet amid the aftermath, there is a different kind of pulse, one that beats between Corvane and me, subtle but undeniable. For weeks, months even, we have danced on the edge of something neither dared name, each glance and touch loaded with unspoken truths. Now, with the circle scattered and Korath kneeling under my mercy, the tension that has built for so long finds a release. Corvane stands beside me, strong and silent, but his eyes, those storm-dark, unyielding eyes, soften in a way I have only glimpsed in stolen moments. I feel it too, the pull, the trust, the heat of connection forged not by bond, not by prophecy, but by choice. I step closer to him, the ground crunching softly underfoot, and he does not retreat. Our fingers brush, tentative at first, then lingering, as if measuring the weight of this new truth. Every lesson, every shared danger, every night spent surviving together has led to this moment. You fought beside me, I murmur, voice low but steady, letting the gravity of what we have accomplished resonate in each word. You fought beside me, not because you had to, not because you were bound to me, but because you chose to. Corvane's jaw tightens, his hand brushing mine fully now, thumb tracing a slow, deliberate path across my knuckles. I did, he says, simple and absolute. I choose you, Eryndra, not for power, not for packs, not for the territory, but because I want you. A warmth blooms in my chest,
a fire tempered by respect and shared battle, not mere desire. I take his hand fully, intertwining fingers, letting the silent acknowledgement of our bond speak louder than words. For the first time, I feel safe, not because I am protected, but because I am with someone who trusts, respects, and sees me as equal. Around us, the forest exhales. The pack, once fractured, now thrives under our leadership. But in this quiet moment, the world shrinks to the space between us, and I realize, for all the battles, all the betrayals, all the power struggles, this choice, this union born of respect and shared strength, is the fiercest victory of all. And for the first time, I allow myself to believe in something beyond survival, in love earned, not claimed.
The sun dips low behind the treetops, casting long shadows across the clearing where the largest, most feared pack in the territory now stands united. Wolves of every size and color, once divided and broken, move in disciplined formation, alert but calm. Their loyalty is no longer to Korath or any alpha of old, but to me. I am no longer the girl who was sold, no longer the pawn of ambition and greed. I am the queen. Corvane's presence at my side is steady and unwavering, a silent pillar of strength. His eyes meet mine briefly, and in that glance is the unspoken truth we have both fought to reach: mutual trust, unbreakable respect, and a bond forged through battle, not prophecy. I do not need a mate bond to define us. Our choice, our shared victories are far more powerful. Korath kneels in the distance, the alpha who sold me alive but utterly powerless, his pride and authority stripped away. His pack follows me, a living reminder of the price of betrayal, and every glance he casts toward me carries a mixture of fear, regret, and recognition. The girl he discarded now commands everything he once believed he could control. He exists beneath my shadow, a cautionary tale etched into the memory of all who witness it. I lift my head, letting the wind carry the scent of victory, the faint tang of blood and the earth, mingled with the quiet promise of dominance. My claws are sharp, my mind sharp, my pack sharper. I am sovereign. Every wolf in this territory, whether by blood, choice, or survival, now bends to the rule I have claimed. Corvane's hand brushes mine, a silent acknowledgement that this moment belongs to both of us. Together, we have forged an empire from the ashes of betrayal and the remnants of shattered packs. The circle of five lies broken, scattered, and powerless. Their threat ended, not by chance, not by fate, but by the calculated strength, courage, and resolve of a girl they once thought weak. I take a final glance at Korath, kneeling like a shadow of his former self. He is alive, yes, but his eyes betrayed a truth. He knows that nothing will ever be the same. The girl he sold is no longer a pawn. She is a queen. And as the last light of the sun touches the forest, I feel it fully. Triumph, power, and freedom. The girl betrayed has become the ruler of the strongest pack in existence, unstoppable, untouchable, and sovereign. The forest is ours, the territory ours, and the legacy, etched in blood, loyalty, and choice, is eternal. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit that like button and show your support. Subscribe now for more epic werewolf shifter romances, slow burn love stories, and unforgettable battles of power and loyalty. Comment below, which character's journey inspired you the most? Eryndra, Corvane, or even Korath? We'd love to hear your thoughts. And don't miss our next thrilling story. Turn on notifications so you'll be the first to know. Thank you for watching, and see you on the next one.